to move on to the Lions game, it's interesting and heartbreaking because as a Packers fan I feel like Lions and Packers fans had similar mentalities heading into this game.
Sure.
Where you're going to be the underdog, right? You're on the road. It's going to be difficult against the 49ers, but it's house money, right? We keep on saying house money is just like amazing season. And I see a lot of Lions fans kind of holding on to that. But the way that you're eliminated when you're like, we're right there. And for the Lions, they were right there to go into the Super Bowl. It just is a gut punch, man.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're the worst third quarter team in football this year. And it just came out the worst time in the NFC Championship.
Like, you wanted to basically just be trailing the whole game and kind of have a chance and then lose. And then you would have felt better as a Lions fan. I didn't upload my Lions video last night because I'm like, this, and you said it, the exact reason, like the way they lost this game.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to feel good about their season tonight. Maybe by Tuesday, when I'm going to upload it now, we'll be like, all right, yeah, that sucked. But their season was a win. They overachieved on multiple levels. So,
because they did what they set out to do. They won the division. They won a playoff game. They won a second playoff game, right? Which is crazy. And it's just
getting to the playoffs was them getting over the hump. Getting to the playoffs. And then they won in the playoffs. And then they won again in the playoffs. And then they were kicking the 49ers butts.
Yeah.
They had the game. And it's the Josh Reynolds drop on fourth down. It's the Josh Reynolds drop on third down where he would have converted.
Yep.
It's the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. Yep. It's the overthrown ball by Purdy that should have been intercepted, but turns into one of the most incredible catches you'll ever see by Brandon Ayuk. It was Jared Goff and Jameson Williams not connecting on the flea flicker for the touchdown.
Yep.
Those were the 5 huge missed opportunities by Detroit. If you want to pick one of those plays that killed them, it was Gibbs fumbling.
And
he's that's out of character for him.
I think what a lot of the dialogue was during the game and then after the game was about Dan Campbell, right? Because at opportunities to settle for field goals, to either increase their lead when they're already up or to go and tie the game. And I think there's 2 schools of thought here. One, you have Dan Campbell who's defending it and just be like, listen, like, I'll take the scrutiny. You got to go for it. Be aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's also, they don't trust their kicker. I mean, you talk about, and that was a lot of Lions fans were in the chat yesterday of the stream. And there's like, because Badgley just misses like a bunch, like after 40. And I'm curious on your take there, because I get the aggression, because you could argue that the reason why the Lions are in this position is because of Dan Campbell being aggressive throughout the season, just the kind of play he talks about. But, and it was interesting too, because as you and I have talked about, and God's Butt Monkey talked about this too, as a Chargers fan, we've talked about Dan Campbell and Brandon Staley and how they're portrayed by the media, and how like one going for it is like, oh, just the nerdy analytics. And then when Dan Campbell does it, it's just like, wow, so gutsy, so ballsy doing that. You saw the costs of that yesterday, but are you putting this more on Campbell? Are you putting this on Badgley? Are you putting this on why the heck do you have that kicker in that position if you're not going to utilize them? Because I think at this point,
it's all of it. Yeah.
I think the more egregious one is the tie is bad to go for the tie. But when you're up 24-7, like I get you want to be aggressive and continuing. I mean, making it 27-24 at that point, and just like getting the points, even if you miss, then you're in the same position, Like I go back and forth on it. And then of course, I don't want to sit here now and be like, well, in hindsight, because if they convert there, it looks like a genius. But
I think the one that like kind of kills you is him not going for the touchdown right before halftime. He settled for 3. And I liked it. I was like, take the points. That like in these games, points they're more valuable than in regular season games for a variety of situations that you could be in the fourth quarter. Points are a premium. All right. The one in the third quarter where they missed for the first time they go for it on fourth down. That one hurts because they miss. But it's everything that happened after that killed them. It was like they just collapsed after that moment. And it's, if you go into a championship game and you don't trust your kicker to make a 40, but between a 40 and 50-yard field goal, to put it politely, you're fucked. Like, you got to trust your kicker to do that. Their aggressiveness, that attitude that comes with that, is why they were in the position that they were in this season. And it's you can put some of it on Campbell, but Dan Campbell trusts his guys to go out and make plays. And ultimately, the Lions had opportunities outside of those missed 2 4th downs to win this game, and they didn't execute there. And maybe if they have a guy like, Butker or Justin Tucker, and they trust their kickers in those situations, it's a little bit different. But I'm blaming this more so on the Lions players. Good Morning Football just showed the replay of Reynolds dropping that pass on 3rd and 8. Not even the 4th down one. The 3rd and 8 one, that's what killed them.
You talk about momentum in a game, and I think momentum is both understated and overstated all the time. But, dude, like, when you had the 49ers score, this was right before the Gibbs fumble, I literally was saying on the stream, like, the Lions need to score right now. And even if it's a field goal, they need to score, because if they don't, this is going to be a big problem, because they took the fan base out of the game. You heard Jared Goff chants being chanted, right? Like, oh man, they have all the momentum, and then Gibbs fumbles, and I'm just like, nope. Like, I've seen this. I've seen it too many times. You see it played out, and the 49ers, and kudos to them, are a good enough team that if you make mistakes, like drop passes, like not selling for field goals, like fumbles, they will take advantage of that. Or even if it is not intercepting Brock Purdy, right? Because that was the Packers' problem. They couldn't pick him off. So, I mean, it's just, this is the playoffs. And when you go against a 1 seed or you go against really good teams in the playoffs, you can't make those kinds of mistakes. And for the Lions, I feel for them. It's a heartbreaking way to lose. At the same time, you're talking about, and Dan Campbell, he said this in his post-game presser, and said, there's some guys who are never going to make it back to this point. Because it is going to be more difficult for the Lions. It is going to, if Kirk Cousins winds up coming back for the Vikings, they're going to be more competitive. Jordan Love and the Packers, they're going to be competitive. It's going to be more difficult for them. They're not under the radar. The Lions aren't going to be under the radar either. And I think, take this from a fan who is very fortunate that the Packers won a Super Bowl when they did, with a young squad, and it was a young Aaron Rodgers, and it was like, oh my God, we are going to have a dynasty. And they never even made it back.
Yeah.
So, like, it's difficult. And so I can feel for him, because it is really difficult to make it back to the Super Bowl. And I think a lot of teams know that. And I think that also fuels the hatred for the Chiefs, because when they make it back to the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl so frequently, like the Patriots did, then it's like, good God, man, like, this is ridiculous. Because teams know how difficult it is. And this is coming from a fan of a team that has had sustained success for 30 years.